What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are talking about a cornerback that Detroit Lions signed this offseason that's really got no attention whatsoever, and I need to give him some. Let's get started. So today we're talking about Darryl Roberts, a cornerback the Detroit Lions signed from the New York Jets that went completely under the radar, and he's probably still under the radar. I can bet that one person watching this video, at least one, does not know that we signed this player, maybe multiple of you, and that's not your fault. It's because I have not talked about him enough, and today I'm going to give him some attention. I really haven't talked about this guy since we signed him, and he went completely under the radar because of other moves the Lions made this offseason. When you bring in Jeffrey Okudah, Desmond Trufant, Daron Harmon, a guy named Darryl Roberts is probably going to fall through the cracks because it's really not someone that you think of. I mean, we talk more about Amani Oruwariye, who was already here last year, than Darryl Roberts, who's new this offseason. See, what happened to Darryl Roberts, this guy was selected back in the 7th round at pick number 247 by the New England Patriots. Shocker, right? He was selected by the Patriots. Now, this is a huge factor, and obviously I always like to point out if they've been with Patriots, because Matt Patricia was on this team. He was working with the New England Patriots when they selected him. So, got an up-close view of Darryl Roberts, and he may know a little bit more about Darryl Roberts than other, coaches or teams necessarily do. So he must have saw something that maybe he liked back then. Maybe he, liked when he was with the Patriots for the very short time. So the unfortunate thing was this player that was drafted out of Marshall, the 6', 182-pound cornerback, did not really play at all whatsoever for the New England Patriots. Actually, what happened is he went on IR the first year with the New England Patriots, and he missed the entire 2015 season. So in 2016, they decided, well, we're going to release him. Now, I don't know exactly why they released him. I don't know everything about the Patriots, but they decided to cut him. And the very next day, he signs with the New York Jets, who is obviously a divisional opponent, and he signs with the Jets, and that's where he would spend his next 3 years. He would spend his next 3 years with the New York Jets. Now, I'm going to run through his stats real quick just in case anybody doesn't know him and anybody's curious. Let's run through him. In 2016, he played in 12 games. He started in 2 of those games. He had 0 interceptions, 6 passes defended, and 21 total tackles. 2017, he played in 15 games. He started in 4 of them. 1 interception, 8 passes defended, 40 total tackles. So some solid stats. Then in 2018, 16 games played, 10 starts, 1 interception, 7 passes defended, 48 total tackles. He allowed a 59% completion percentage. He only allowed 440 passing yards. He gave up a 100.7 passer rating and 4 touchdowns. Solid numbers for sure. However, in 2019, he took a pretty big dip. He played in 13 games, started in 10, 1 interception, 6 passes defended, had 63 total tackles, but he allowed a 64% completion percentage, almost 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an 103.9 rating. So not too far off. Like, he didn't fall too much, but he definitely got a little bit worse in his 2019 season. And the Lions signed him, and this guy went completely under radar as a cheap, player the Lions brought in for depth. We don't know exactly what he's going to be. The interesting thing about Darryl Roberts is now that I've actually looked at him and done, deeper dive into him, I can see that I don't even know what position this guy's going to play for the Detroit Lions because of the depth he adds. Now, the first thing that popped in my head when I wanted to go back and look at Darryl Roberts is the Jamal Agnew news, right? We heard that Jamal Agnew is now moving to wide receiver. So is Darryl Roberts kind of that somewhat of a replacement? And the reason I say that is because Darryl Roberts, coming out of college, like Jamal Agnew, was known for being athletic, super fast, had great combines, right? I mean, his broad jump was incredible, 39-inch vertical, 4.3, 640-yard dash. This guy's crazy athletic, like Jamal Agnew. And all of a sudden, now he's on the defense as their cornerback, and Jamal Agnew can move to offense, so maybe he allows him to have that opportunity, or maybe he pushes him out of the cornerback room. Now, I took some pros and cons down, some down from Marshall, where he played in college, he wore the number 7, and mostly, from the NFL, and some cons, what I saw from when I was watching him play. So we're going to run through those. These are not stats, this is what I saw when I watched him, so let's get into it. The first thing, the reason I say that I don't know what position he's going to play is because he's played safety, he's played cornerback on the outside, and in the slot. Now, some people will say he was better on the outside, he doesn't have quick enough instincts for the slot position. That's one of his problems, the instincts and awareness. That's a huge con, which I'll actually just point out right now. He's not a very aware player. I mean, he seems to get lost at times. Sometimes he's lost looking at the quarterback, looking back in the pocket, and those are 2 big concerns, and that's how he allows some big routes, and a lot of times he can get beat because his awareness isn't great. And they do play some zone over there, so do Lions at times, so I feel like he's going to fit in the scheme pretty well. But the thing is, we don't know what position he's going to be. He could be a free safety, which he played, and he ended up starting at one point. I think that was back in 2018. He could play the outside cornerback, which he kind of became at one point. He could play the slot cornerback, which he was kind of thought that that's what he was going to be when he came out of college because of his speed. And, the thought was, okay, he's not the biggest guy. He only weighs 180 pounds. You probably put him at slot. He's quick. That would be a good spot for him. And he got moved around. But the fact is he can play all of those spots. So if he plays backup slot, maybe he's a backup to Justin Coleman. Maybe he's a backup at the outside cornerback position, or maybe he's a backup safety. But the great thing is that he can do all 3 things. And the Lions love versatility, so that's a huge reason they brought him in. The next pro I have is that he was signed to a major deal. He was given a pretty big deal, a pretty big extension, I will say, by the Jets, a 3-year, $18 million deal. So he was given a pretty solid deal by the Jets, ended up getting cut short because they decided to release him, but they at least had faith in him at one point to give him that extension, because back in 2018, he had a pretty good season. A lot of people recognize him in 2018 as that guy that maybe just needed another year to flourish and grow because they saw a lot of potential. A player that stepped in because of an injury. Tremaine Johnson got injured back in 2018, and he had to step in and take over that role. And he was known as their number 2 cornerback in 2018. He played pretty well. The numbers were pretty good. He graded out as their second best cornerback in 2018. In 2019, it was like he's going to take that next step and he's going to be good, but it seemed like he just did not take that next step. And at that point, then the Jets decided to release him. He actually got benched. He lost his role during the season, and they decided to release him, and he became available. So we know the potential's there. We know that a team has believed in him before because they gave him that contract. The big concern is that in 2018, he kind of lost all of that confidence because, he lost his job, he lost his starting job, and then all of a sudden he is released. The next pro I have is his speed. His athletic ability is really, really good, which means he can basically match up with any wide receiver you need. I saw him play pretty well against Stephon Diggs, some good wide receivers. He can go out there against guys like CeeDee Lamb, or is it not CeeDee Lamb? It's not CeeDee Lamb. D.D. Westbrook. I don't know why I said CeeDee Lamb. D.D. Westbrook. He's played against some really fast wide receivers, and he's able to, hang tough. The only time he gets beat is when he's unaware of what the heck's going on. He'll get lost in coverage. But if it's stride for stride, man to man, and the wide receiver's going deep, he's able to keep up because he has that athleticism. He's not going to get burnt. He's not Tease Tabor. He's not slow. He's pretty fast, and still at his age of 29, he still shows that he's a very fast cornerback. So that's kind of cool, right? Because, it's never a bad thing to be quick. It doesn't mean you're going to be good, but it's never a bad thing to be fast. That's always something that you can build upon. Like I said, his versatility to switch to free safety and be a starter at that spot, that's pretty impressive, even though the Jets secondary wasn't very good. And I will point this out in defense of him. The Jets don't get a lot of pressure, okay? Their hurry rates in 2018 and 19 were lower than the Detroit Lions, and we know the Lions don't blitz much at all. So I'll give them a little bit something there. Like the Jets, they've been known to have a really bad secondary last couple of years, aside from, their safety and Jamal Adams, but they really haven't gotten a lot of pressure. So they haven't really been helping out their cornerbacks fit the scheme. I like his ability to fit the scheme. When he does play man, he can play press, which obviously is great if you're going to blitz. He can drop into his zone, like cover threes and stuff like that we mix in time to time. Trisha will mix those in here and there. He fits the scheme. Obviously he fit the Patriots scheme because they went out and drafted him. They thought that he would fit in that scheme. So in college, a little bit in the NFL, I saw, okay, I could picture this guy playing in the Lions defense. Now, the first comparison I made was Rashaan Melvin. He was a cheap deal and he had a big role. This could be, our Rashaan Melvin if we didn't have Jeffrey Okudah, Amani Oruwariye, Desmond Trufant, and Justin Coleman. If we didn't have a solid number 2, this guy could play number 2 because he's done it before. And that's kind of, I feel like, what we did with Rashaan Melvin. I think that's a great comparison. The good thing is that this year, we don't have to put him into that role. Now, Rashaan Melvin wasn't bad last season. He actually was a pretty nice tackler for us, and I think he played over expectations with the money that he was paid. But he was also in a role that he probably should not have been in. And if you watched the Detroit Lions last season, they tried to play man-to-man, and Rashaan Melvin was not really cut out for man-to-man. I mean, he wasn't awful, and I'm going to give him a lot of credit because I thought he ended up being our best value signing because he had a huge role for a cheap deal, which is awesome. But he probably should have never been in that position. And just like, Darryl Roberts, he should probably not be your number 2 cornerback. But he could be a solid depth guy, a veteran that you can learn from, a feisty player that has a lot of confidence in himself. He actually one time kind of went off on Jets fans. He put a tweet out, a thing out on Instagram, going off on Jets fans for disrespecting or something. That was kind of crazy. That's kind of wild. But he is very confident in himself. He has a lot of confidence. So that's really cool. I do like to see players with confidence. Not super cocky, but when they have confidence, that's always a good thing. So even though he's, been through a few things, he does have confidence in himself. And maybe that's one big reason that he was able to get himself another deal. But I love the fact that Patricia was there when they selected him. I feel like Patricia knows he can fit in their scheme. He looks like he can fit in their scheme. He gives us something else. Who knows if he makes the team? But again, I think this is a good role player. Now, going back to his cons, he had 8 penalties. One thing that he's really known for is being handsy. Like I said, he loses players for awareness. He's pretty handsy at times because I don't know. Maybe he's just scared he's going to get beat. Whatever it may be, he's pretty handsy on short routes. I see him grab a few times. 8 penalties is definitely concerning at that position when you don't play in every game and start in every game. 8 penalties is a lot, so that's definitely something to be concerned about. It's not like the worst I've ever seen, but it's definitely not good. Bad 2019, like I mentioned, in a very deep cornerback group, which is good for the Lions. Bad for him, I guess, if you're looking for necessarily playing time, because I don't think he'll get it. If he makes the team, I don't think he'll have tons of playing time, but, it's good for him because he's going to be able to teach some of these young guys like Amani, like Okudah, You know, he's going to help them kind of translate to the NFL more, and also not be in a position where he's forced to go out there and play a lot. He'll mix in, because when we drop to the nickel, if we need him to play slot, he can do that. If we need him to play like a safety, he can do that. So I love that about him, and I think he's just going to be a solid role player that can, you know, do different things when we call upon him, but also mentor some of these young players and hopefully help them kind of translate and transcend to the NFL quicker. So, you know, I would say he's definitely an interesting player, a lot of versatility. His best defense I saw was against, you know, deep passes, crossing routes. He's a very fast player. So, you know, man-to-man, he can hold his own. But the problem is awareness, and that's why I see him struggle in comebacks, curl routes, out routes. He seems to get beat. Double moves can struggle. He can grab a little bit there. So not the best cornerback, not the most, you know, I would say polished cornerback. He obviously is already 29, so he's probably not going to get a lot better, but he's great for the Lions situation. He's not a situation where he has to play a ton, but he can help out at times, mentor some young guys, and he gives you a little something, right? He gives you that versatility. So well, that is Darryl Roberts. I think that'd be a cool shirt to have. You know, I always want to get a shirt that's someone different that not a lot of people have. I think Darryl Roberts would be kind of fire. So I'll think about it. Let me hear your thoughts and comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.